Now he's at the bus stop waiting for the streetcar, I think. Where did he go? Oh, what the fuck? Where did he go? Okay, I lost him. He's not at the bus stop anymore. He could have went inside. Oh no, there he is. Yeah, he's heading down towards. He's by the streetcar on the road. Maybe he's trying to catch the streetcar. That's the only thing I could think of. Yeah, he's just going in circles. Well, now he's getting on the train, so we might not see him anymore. This will be the last time he drove in front of us. Because he's getting on the train and leaving. NSK, thank you for the... Maybe he's lost his meds, I don't know. Thank you for the follow. NSK. Bear Tings, yeah. Bear Tings. We ain't got no Bear Tings on this corner. If you're looking for Bear Tings, you got to go check over there. The Bear Tings is up over there by Shoppers Drug Mart. You can get Bear Tings over there. There's a lot of guys over there with Bear Tings. What city? Toronto? Toronto? Toronto, Ontario, Canada? Uh-oh, Johnny Boy, you know who the guys are over there. Johnny Boy might be your hookup. If you guys are looking for a good source, Johnny Boy, I'm not sure if you're looking for more clients, but there might be some potential clients here looking for a hookup. Jim Beam? Yeah, Toronto's okay, but like, it is what it is, I guess, right? So, I guess we're gonna go home. I don't know what to do, but we're gonna have to go home soon and get dinner. So, what are we gonna have for dinner, guys? I think I already know what I'm gonna get. Since it's cheap, I'm gonna get pizza again. I'm not pizzaed out yet, but I had a whole pizza yesterday too, so we'll go home and buy another pizza. Let's go home, get another pizza, and check the prices on meat and see if like there's anything cheaper. Tomorrow I'm supposed to be back at work, so I'm not even sure what's going on. I might be at work tomorrow, so I won't find out until like early afternoon. Like around 3 p.m. today, I'll find out what my schedule is tomorrow for working or not. Well, Dorothan, we can go to Italy. You want to go to Italy? I don't know what they're giving me. It's a surprise bag. Dorothan, it's a surprise bag from Italy. Okay, you know what? We'll go to Italy and get the bag as a surprise bag and bring it home and open it up and see what's inside. How about that? Okay, Dorothan. If you're going to stay with me for the next hour or two, I'll go pick up the bag. We'll take it home and go shopping at the store that I go to. And we'll get like another drink or a pizza, something like that, at the store I go to. And we'll go home and check out what's inside the bag. We'll do a review on what's inside the Italy bag. So, hold on a second. Let me go to the app right now. Let me go to the app and reserve Italy. Let me go right now for 10 seconds to the food app and let me reserve the thing so that I have it. So don't leave, guys. 10 seconds and I'll be right back. And then we're going to walk to Italy and pick it up in the downstairs of the Eden Center. So give me 1 second give me 1 second so I can pay for it. And I'll be right back in 10 seconds.
This ad is banned in
I got a little.
Nouvelle réalité.
Breaking news in the entertainment world. Taylor Swift
about any of those things.
If you want to reach audiences socially,
Happy New Year from my family. We are wishing you all the best.
Okay.
They're 19 and trading on their.
Hey. Right?
Would say publicly, like putting their career, their reputation, and their life on the line. And this is the woman that 2 or 3 years ago people thought was like a snake handler, redneck goof. So we were gonna, because this is what Bruno really loves, is these things that no one else will talk about, right? Bruno's a heretic. I should say that more often. Bruno's a heretic. The real Bruno's. Giovanni Bruno was put to death by the Catholic Church in 1600 for being a heretic, for arguing that there are a multiplicity of parallel universes, exactly like we talk about quantum today. So, but let's do Venezuela real quick. So my theme on here has been for a number of years that we talk in terms of like democracy and capitalism, and then we never really get anywhere, okay? We want to get all worked up that like, that's unconstitutional, or, you know, the Fed is printing money. Like, we psychobabble about all these things, and it never really explains, okay? So, you know, I said this last week and I'll say it again. I reached out to a young, very observant Jewish kid who's brilliant and also into AI. And I said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about all these issues. And he looked at my Substack and blocked me. So these are hard things to talk about, okay? And again, there's only one woman in North America willing to put her career, her family, her reputation, everything on the line. So that's the main theme. But let's do Venezuela. So, okay, it happened. There was some sort of military intervention, and it lasted about an hour, and Maduro left the building, and it appears to be a palace coup. So what I've always told you is I believe everything is run by conspiracy. And then you can say, well, that's just a theory. I get it. That's the joke, people. It's like you're going to play, you know, the Steelers are going to play Baltimore this evening, and like they don't really know what the other team's going to do. So you have to live in the world of conspiracy. You don't really have actual knowledge of what happens on the other side. So you just have to like. Right. The Congress didn't act. Trump didn't put this all together by himself. He's not intelligent enough to. So this is a conspiracy. It's probably been planned for the woman who just got the Nobel Prize is clearly an insider. She's going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. So she's a new Jerusalemer. She's an Israelite. She's part of the conspiracy, and it appears to be a palace coup. This guy did a nice job. This guy on TikTok, let's see if I can pop it up real quick. His name's Chad Scott. Let's just hear just a minute of him.
Yeah. Cartels may have been out of the loop. They may have been shooting with small arms at these helicopters, but the military defenses were completely neutralized or not even running. And yes, the U.S. is very good at conducting these types of operations, but this kind of speed definitely implies something else. That defenses were not fully manned, systems were not activated, crews were told to stand down, key commanders decided that they weren't going to die for Maduro at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. I mean, that's exactly what internal betrayal looks like in practice. At some point, someone in Maduro's regime decided that the regime's survival no longer required Maduro himself. Now, some of you may also point to the fact that...
So this guy's name's Chad Scott. He does a lot of content regarding Ukraine, and 99% of it's wrong. But he got this one right. Most of the people who speak English, most white men who speak English, when they talk about the Ukraine, they're wrong. Even everybody's favorite geopolitical best-selling author, strategist Peter Zeihan, if you remember the coup in Russia when the Wagner Group went back into Russia, and there was a coup for 2 hours, and then went away. This is a lot like Venezuela. There's like this thing that's happening, and it only lasts an hour because it's mainly just a show, right? It's probably even the targets that they attack. There's probably nobody there, right? So the helicopters come in, and we have a big, they're going to show it during the football games and shit. And Maduro could possibly be in on it too. I'm not saying Maduro is in on it. I'm saying it is conceivable that there's an agent who's been operating in Venezuela for the last couple decades as the official socialist guy, and they're like, at some point the helicopter is going to land on the roof, and you're going to jump in with your wife, and we're going to fly you to North America and put you through a show trial. Blah, blah, blah. So this is how the world works, people. Everybody suck it up. This is how it works. It's not a democracy. It's not capitalism. We need the oil. We need the fucking rare earth minerals. Exxon just found the biggest field in the Western Hemisphere next door in Guyana. A huge, huge field, like a 50-year field. I don't know if it's big as Gaywar, the one in Saudi Arabia, but it's an elephant. It's that big. This is how big this is. Now, as you know, when you look around America, you're seeing more and more on TikTok how destructive and how many of these data centers there are. There's not enough energy for them, but we'll get to that in a minute. So again, it's time to go back to MTG. Not MGD, that's Miller Genuine Draft. This is MTG, this is Marguerite Taylor Greene. So, where to begin? I knew where I wanted to begin. So, about 20 years ago, I took my family, we had 4 kids at the time, we went to Montreal, which is about 8-9 hours away. And we ran the kids around, saw museums, and ate some cool food and so forth. And one of the last things we did is we went to the little chapel of Bon Voyages, which is what it sounds like. It's where people who were either going up the canoes up through Canada or going out to the ocean would say their last prayers. Anyways, we were there, and we had a tour guide, and it was this middle-aged woman with sort of a plain dress on, and I didn't get the joke, but at the end of it I said, what are all those up on the bluffs there. I guess it's Mount Royal, hence the name Montreal. What are all those buildings up there? And she said it's a convent, but it's no longer filled with nuns. But I mean, it was huge. It was like the whole horizon of the top of the mountains. And then, like a dumbass, I'm saying, oh, and I look down, and she has this long necklace on. At the bottom of the long necklace is a big cross. And I go, "Are you a sister?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm one of them." And what it was basically like she's the last one of the last ones. Like there used to be thousands of them. So as we go into this thing called sex and conspiracy, we're going to talk about MTG and all this. I love to think about that I think it's like 60% of millennial women don't have a man. So they're like basically pretty much celibate. I think it's like 40% don't have children. I'm not making fun of them, by the way. That's not the point of this. What is it? 12% of men under the age of 30 are married and have a house. 50 years ago, of course, that was 50%. I'm going to take this jacket off. So, but just from the visual of it, when you look up there, you're like, my God, like it's, when you go to a big university and there's thousands and thousands of people in big, beautiful buildings and, dormitories. But this is like French architecture, and which I like very much. And I remember sitting there thinking like, wow, like what a demographic change that there used to be all these women who had their housing and their education paid for. Granted, I get it that they didn't, they weren't married and they didn't have sex, or if they did, it was like, they're not supposed to and all that. They're supposed to be celibate. But then I was thinking like, how similar that is to today. There's so many women demographically that live alone. J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance. Women that don't have a man, aren't married. Maybe you're celibate. It's called. You have all these young women that used to run universities and hospitals. They used to be nuns. I was delivered by nuns in a hospital outside of Philadelphia. And like they wore the whole penguin get up and everything, right? They're all gone. And Vatican II got rid of them. But that's a whole nother Sunday right there. But we have a plan for all these, women that are like underemployed and not married and don't have children. It's called OnlyFans. That's, I think it's 1 in 10 women under the age of 40 or something like that is on OnlyFans. So this is the world that we've just stepped into. Okay? This is the world of MTG. This is... there's a lot of people in here. I'm surprised. This, by the way, this post got a lot of people on it. It's great. It's got, and all it was is this. Bruno can bring it sometimes, like on the music, and I don't even. So I looked at her and I'm like, what am I going to do with her for music? And because it's a business account, I can't use like. If I wanted bluegrass, I can't just plug in like Flat and Scruggs or something and it comes up bluegrass because I can't use copyrighted stuff. So you have to have like an idea when you get music. So I'm like, well, the obvious thing to do is play bluegrass and sort of, she's from northern part of Georgia where like the bottom of the Appalachian Mountains are, okay? It's also cool that she's from Rome. Like this is some really deep American history shit going on right now, people. I'm telling you right now. So I said, no. If you look at that look in her eye, this is not just, we're just not going to call her some pissed off redneck. That's not giving her due. She is digging in, leaning in, whatever cliche you want to use, to a world where we all woke up one morning, got on social media, TikTok and other things, and found out that a child had been delivered on a boat and unalived and thrown in the fucking lake And the guy who's in the Oval Office was in the presence of that. And nobody does fucking anything about it. Right? No one does anything. When she stood beside Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, the first thing she did that was brilliant, you can go watch the video again, is she talked about her personal relationship with Trump and said, he called me a traitor. Like, dude, this is as good as anything from the Civil War, the Revolution, 1968, Malcolm X. Like, this is like the real fucking deal right here, people. Okay? So I think I just said I want one of them old like Bach solo cello things, and that's what this. But it's a little bit scary too. Now, most of us are focused on chicken sandwiches and college football right now, but when you look in her eye, you can see that she's not. She's living in a world where she wakes up and her fucking children are threatened because of the guy who called her a traitor. Hold on, it gets better. She won't back down. You know, we've all watched these videos of like, you know, grizzly bear, like these giant, they're like cows. They're like 1,400 pounds, right? And then once in a while, it'll find a female with cubs and like go try to eat the cubs. And like this female grizzly bear goes to battle with this one, except this one's 600 pounds heavier. But this one's fucking crazy and doesn't know, it's just not going to quit. It's just not going to quit until this one finally says, enough, I'll go eat a salmon. I don't need to eat your cubs. See ya. See you in 6 months and we'll, you know, do the thing when you're in heat. It's interesting growing up on a farm that sexual abuse doesn't really happen very much on a farm. Meaning if things aren't like in heat, like it doesn't happen. That's a whole nother thing, but this woman is living deep in the real world of sexuality, not the politically correct world, the real world. And when I started this sex and conspiracy thing, you know, I just make this shit up, like laying in bed, like having a cup of coffee in the morning. Like there's no like big plan here. It's just me sort of winging it. I was thinking about how to get across as the Epstein stuff came out, like the one thing that I've found on the internet that is so revolting, it sort of hits you in both directions. It's intellectually the most sophisticated thing you can hear, and it's also morally and spiritually the most devastating thing you can hear, and it's the book written by Kathy O'Brien, who has an elaborate series on social media where she says she was rescued by an FBI agent. She ended up marrying him, and she said she was an MK Ultra incest sex agent survivor. She tells the story, and it just goes on and on. Like, and as you listen to it, like your brain melts. Okay. And the book is called The Transformation of America. Like, again, think about this. There's all out here in the country, there's all these guys with all these 223s, if you know, you know, and pickup trucks, and they're ready for the big revolution. The fucking guy in the White House is involved with, like, I think eventually it'll come out that there's incest too, because that's what it's always sounded like that with Trump and his daughters. But like infanticide and PDF and all, nothing happens because everybody's in a trance. Nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like the only guy in North America who's gay and a comedian, the only guy who really lives in her world, and this makes sense, is Tim Dillon. And the only way to talk about it is through comedy, right? Because it's like a clown or like a fool in Shakespeare. The clown is the only one allowed to tell the truth. Nobody says or does anything. Because everybody's in a fucking trance. There was some crazy guy who was on here mainly talking about silver, and I've never heard anybody else say this yet. He said, did you buy enough how did he say it? Have you all bought enough brain stimulants from Joe Rogan and Alex Jones yet? It's the only other guy on the internet that's ever said that other than me. I'm like, what is it with all these influencers selling things for your brain, like Alpha Brain? You know what I mean? Okay, so let's do... Okay, so she goes through this thing. This picture, by the way, is from the New York Times. You can go read the article. It's not a very good article. It's what the New York Times does. It makes everything milquetoast and boring. The only interesting thing in the fucking article is 3 or 4 comments that she made. And it's going to take me a minute to find one, but I'm going to read to you in case you haven't read it already. I knew when I looked at this and we're sexuality and all this, and I was like, daughter of Zion. And in case you don't know my content, I've spent a lot of time on here talking about that America has been a Zionist country before the creation of Israel. This is a deep theme of mine. There's a book called American Zion written by an Israeli professor, and it says that the Old Testament, this is really, even if you have no interest in religion and you just want to like think about this like from a literary standpoint, the Old Testament is like the thing that America has in common. Well, I don't understand. Jews, Christians, Protestants, Catholics, non-believers, Abraham Lincoln, who was not a Christian, hated Christianity. Everybody sort of comes back to the Old Testament because it's this, like you could go into the mountains with a gun and the Bible and like somehow it works, right? The imagery of the Old Testament is sort of part of the landscape of like a frontier. By the way, there's a big philosophical thing that says that America is like fixed. It's the Turner thesis. America's fixated on a frontier and can't get out of it. We just keep thinking that America's like a never-ending frontier, and it's not. So that's a problem. We just abandon our cities and so forth. But as I read this thing from Lamentations, which it's funny, it's from Lamentations, it's just rife with all this, I'm going to call it like Stanley Kubrick sexuality. It's loaded, and you probably can't really tell because of the translation into English, but it's loaded with like hyper-sexual imagery of when sexuality goes wrong. And so anyways, let's read it. How lonely sits the city that was full of people. How like a widow has she become. She who was great among the nations. She who was a princess among the provinces has become a slave. She weeps bitterly in the night, with tears on her cheeks. Among all her lovers she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies. Judah has gone into exile because of affliction and hard servitude. She dwells now among the nations, but finds no resting place. Her pursuers have all overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads of Zion mourn. What a fucking great line that. Even the roads mourn. For none come to the festival. All her gates are desolate. Her priests groan. Her virgins have been afflicted. I think that means assaulted. I think the translators would just cover it up a little bit, you know what I mean? And she herself suffers bitterly. Her foes have become the head. Her enemies prosper, because the Lord has afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children have gone away, captives before the foe. In other words, as you read that, oh, here we go. Fucking misinformation. I just got my misinformation. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Larry. I got my misinformation threat. This will be on Substack. We're going to try real hard because if they turn these off, I can't download them and put them on Substack. So where are we at? 12:32. Okay, Steelers don't play till 8 o'clock, so I don't have to get off by 1 o'clock. By the way, this guy, a lot of people that follow me are evangelicals, like Texas and Oklahoma and the Deep South, and I know sometimes some of the stuff I says rubs them the wrong way. So this guy wrote a book called The Emergence of the Post-Christian Nation. Okay, and he also has this theory that a lot of the Old Testament was written by a woman. He wrote a book on this called the Book of J. And I don't think there's very good proof for this, but when you're a literary critic, you can do whatever you want. But that sounds like it was written by a woman. That piece. It's very, very powerful feminine imagery, right? And I think as you read it, you have to get the joke that this is like the daughter of Zion is the 13-year-old girl who some years later is reporting to the FBI what happened to her on a yacht in Lake Michigan. Can you imagine? Nobody does anything. Everybody got real worked up that Bill Clinton got head from some silly Jewish 20-year-old girl. Oh my God, ugh, right? We're talking about like an infanticide, and no one says shit. So you can read this Daughter of Zion thing, and as I've said on here many, many times, I find the people that are most spiritual in like a classic sort of metaphysical way, sort of like the metaphysics of Christ, if you'll indulge me, are women who have been through abuse, who become sort of witchy. They're frequently into like sort of the occult of like tarot and astrology, but when they talk, once in a while they'll bounce in and they'll like talk about sort of like a Gnostic Christianity, like a Gnostic understanding of Christ, that, you know, God is in us and that kind of thing. And they're really better at it than the white men who run around America and call themselves Christians. Like they're closer to like the metaphysics of Aquinas and Augustine and even Luther than like the Joel Osteens. That's something I've just picked up on over and over and over again. And here we are. By the way, when there's like 500 people watching me, that means like by the time I click out of this, it'll probably be 5,000 or 6,000 people who are watching this, which is a big one. Who would think that MTG would call all this attention, like crypto and the Fed and blockchain and shit like that? No, it's because you all know that this is true. All right? You all can feel it in your almost in your psyche, almost in like in the zeitgeist. So, bouncing back to Venezuela, nobody says it clearer than Oswald Spengler, who wrote the book The Decline of the West, who said that raw imperialism, like we just experienced in the last 48 hours, is the last stage of a civilization. Which brings us to, what the fuck are we all going to do about this? What, like, is MTG a real political player? I'm going to go 50-50 on that. She's going to resign her seat. She's sort of disliked now by cable TV on both sides. The pretty girls on MSNBC won't give her due. This is really what I wanted to get into. Feminism, we have to talk about feminism before we go away here. Feminism doesn't know how to deal with all this stuff. Feminism is part of, and if I ruffling some feathers by saying this, good, because I mean to. I don't mean like J.D. Vance, the cat ladies. That's just rude. I mean feminism as like a psyop by Gloria. Where's Gloria Steinem? She's still alive? Like, why isn't Gloria Steinem like in front of the fucking Lincoln Memorial, like talking about the baby that was thrown? Because she wears a fucking shirt that says, "I had an abortion today." That's Gloria Steinem. See, this is where like this deep biblical stuff is actually more interesting than like American politics, because it's implying that like we don't care about babies. We're like the Canaanites. By the way, just give me 2 minutes to run this through your head in case you don't remember your Sunday school or catechism. So the Canaanite, the ancient Israelites had this thing where they were like supposed to follow God and they didn't, right? That's the big theme of the Old Testament. That's part of what you hear here. And it also almost implies that God has abandoned them, or that they have abandoned God, or both. And they're like in this desolate scene, like even, what did it say? Even the roads moan. Like, what a fucking image. Like, that's like Cormac McCarthy shit. But the Canaanites would sacrifice their children to their Baphomet god. And you've all seen me put up Mrs. Rothschild with the big Baphomet head, right? Everybody loves Mrs. Rothschild. Let's pull her up. Everybody loves to see Mrs. Rothschild and her big Baphomet head. So then the central story of Abraham is that he tries to sacrifice his son, right? And if you've never been in a Catholic church, a lot of times you'll go into the Catholic church and you'll see on the altar, you'll see Isaac, or Abraham with Isaac and a knife. It's like when you're a kid, you're like, what the fuck is that? Right? So the hand of God like stops him and says, no, you don't have to sacrifice your children. And that's sort of like the origin of the Jewish faith, right? And this is, now here's something fun. You've probably seen this on social media too. I've only seen this one or two places. Somebody described Abraham as just Brahmin. And that like somehow the Brahmins from India got to the Middle East and told the Canaanites to stop sacrificing their children. And they called that hero Abraham. Just something to have fun with on a Sunday. It's a cool thing to think about, isn't it? So then, in the Catholic Church, and probably other places too, like there's a lot of emphasis on that Christ is the return of the Abraham-Isaac problem. And that, we just went through Christmas, and that man has gone so far astray that he has to repeat that thing, only this time he has to do the deed, not just with a knife like you would a bull or a ram, but with his own son, right? That's the Christian tradition right there. I'm going through all this for a reason. Just give me a second. And then the other day I was thinking, like I was sort of preparing for this, and I was like, it's Hamlet. I'm like, because Shakespeare, there's a movie out right now called Hamnet, and it's about what the story that I'm about to tell you. Shakespeare lost a son named Hamnet, and within like a year or two writes a play called Hamlet, where he plays the father. Shakespeare plays in his own play, and he plays Hamlet's father. And the play is basically a sacrifice of the son. That's a whole nother Sunday piece right there. By the way, Hamlet is all conspiracy, right? Everybody around him is in a conspiracy, except his mom. Again, very Christian-like, right? The only person of worth in the Bible other than Christ is sort of John the Baptist and his mother, and Mary, right? She's unblemished and she's the virgin and all that. So that's where I wanted to sort of wind this down with MTG, because when you look in her eye, and like, it is absolutely savage, right? it's not like men having sex with 17-year-olds. Like, we all know that goes on. My favorite story to that effect is Matt Gaetz, who is also turning against Trump. Matt Gaetz supposedly paid a 17-year-old to sleep with him. You know, we're all friends here. And she said, yeah, I did it because I wanted to get braces. Daughters of Zion. I slept with a congressman for, I don't know, a couple $1,000 maybe, so that I could get we have $65,000 of GDP per capita in the United States, and women have sex with congressmen so that they can get fucking braces. So what you're really seeing in her eye isn't just women. It isn't just like the Take Back the Night movement, like the feminist, which I'm not denigrating it. I'm just saying that this is much, much worse. Can I even say that? Because that'll piss people off. So the other one, if you remember the other book that I referenced when I started the sex and conspiracy thing, I referenced Transformation of America, and the other one was Sexual Persona by Camille Paglia, who also went to Yale and studied with Harold Bloom like I did. And so if you've never read it, if you're a devout Christian or a devout feminist or a lesbian, I don't give a where you are on the spectrum, you need to read the first chapter of that book, because it is a devastating explosion of all this psychobabble bullshit in the English-speaking world about sexuality. It is like this is my point, people sacrificing children and power and sexual, like, this all is how it all works, folks. This is if you're a Christian, you believe in original sin, and the unfortunate part about like feminism is it thinks it can make this go away, and it can't. And that's Camille Paglia's point. It goes away because there's a civilization. The problem is, in our fucking civilization, it is being run by the PDFs. That's how the conspiracy works, is through the PDFs. In the Diocese of Pittsburgh, 100 priests were accused of PDF. That shows that it's a conspiracy. What do you mean it's a conspiracy? It's not random numbers of people joining the Catholic priesthood who turn out to be PDFs. It's because they started to layer in, the seminaries became PDF schools. 100 priests in the last 50 years. That's like half of the priests in the Pittsburgh is a big diocese. It's a very Catholic city, but 100 of them, right? Let's do Penn State. So the whole coaching staff knows of what Sandusky's doing. See, it becomes a conspiracy. And then everybody who's in on it won't say anything because they don't want to be part of it either, including Joe Paterno. I mean, this was like a huge deal in Pennsylvania for like 3 years. I mean, you'd get in like a fist fight at a bar talking about this. People taking both sides. That's my point to you today. So here she is, and she's the only one that recognizes that the king is to blame. Like Hamlet said. Does Hamlet say that? No, I think Laertes says that. The king is to blame. No one else will do it. Not Fareed Zakaria, or whatever the fuck his name is. Not the women on The View. Not Michelle Obama. This woman. Now it's gonna take me just a minute to pull this up. I have to put on my password and shit, but I gotta give you just, I can find it that way. Don't go away, because this is the best part. So we're gonna go to the New York Times, MTG. I gotta get this quote to you. Her quote. New York Times. Okay, she talks in this strange... Oh, fuck. I guess I have to do it this way. I should have had this pulled up earlier. My apologies. I'll do it from memory. She talks in this kind of a combination of like Appalachian, I know what that is because I live in the Appalachian Mountains, and North Georgia. And it's this very unique dialect, which the pretty girls on MSNBC will forever make fun of because they have a nice life and have a nice house and have nice orgasms with their husbands and nice cars and everything. They just they're basically get paid. They're a part of the Daughters of Zion. They basically get paid to just ridicule everybody in America who isn't like them. That's their job. I call them the pretty girls on MSNBC. And you know, what's her name? Rachel Maddow will be just completely combobulated this morning because of this imperial operation in Venezuela. It's exactly like Ukraine. Gaza, Ukraine, Venezuela, it's all the same thing. Somaliland, it's all the same thing. It is raw imperialism that just at the end of the day says, what are you going to do about it? We threw the child in the lake. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Come on. So on I used Manus to find 4 quotes that are on Substack. By the way, this will go on Substack as long as Larry Ellison's goons don't take this down. Copy text from. Okay, they already did that. Okay, so this was fun. So Manus was bought by Facebook. Bruno told you to go get an Apple M5 laptop and download Manus into it. I don't want to get into AI right now, but the revolution might actually be in the tech, but that's a whole nother thing. Okay, so here's the 4 quotes. I said, fine. So I downloaded the New York Times article, which is not really interesting because it's just a milquetoast sort of a... None of my point to you today is neither the feminists nor the conservatives will support her. She's taken on everybody. Because the feminists and the conservatives are all part of the conspiracy. See what I'm getting at? She's like Tamara from Titus Andronicus and Hamlet and Macbeth and Lady Macbeth all rolled into one. Okay, so I published this on Substack, I think for everybody. So here are 4 quotes from the New York Times article. And at first glance, you're going to be like, yeah, this is a redneck. But then I'm going to tell you, you better think this through a little deeper. Okay, the first one is, on Trump's behavior with female reporters. You've seen the thing, shut up, piggy, or whatever. She said, MTG says, it's because he knows he has a woman problem. Of all the ways you could say it, we all know what she means. But that weird, like, Hemingway, like, way of writing, way of speaking, actually tell a woman problem. It's fucking brilliant. I'm telling you, this is shit to pay attention to. Number 2, on Trump's behavior as a lame duck president. In my opinion, we're going to see more war. By the way, you know Georgia's a very militant state, right? It's a lot of military personnel. We're going to see more war. Because what do you do when you really lose power, when you become a lame duck? How do you cling to power? You go to war. Here we are, woke up to Venezuela. Number 3, on her personal evolution. And this is, again, the fake Christian conservatives and the feminists won't give her her due because she actually operates like a real Christian. Everyone's like, quote, she's changed. I haven't changed my views, but I've matured. I've developed depth. Dude, I'm telling you, this is the real deal. I don't know what's going to happen to her, but I'm just... my favorite is number 4. On learning from Washington is how Manus titled it. Quote, "I've learned Washington, and I've come to understand the brokenness of the place." Like, this is great. "If none of us is learning lessons here, and we can't evolve and mature with our lessons, then what kind of people are we?" Now, there's a couple of pieces of that are not really ideal English. I understand this. "I've learned Washington," which in like the old German explanation of the word learned is to teach. I've learned it and I'm teaching it. "The brokenness of the place." What a fucking line. It sort of broke down. It's perfect word, brokenness. "If none of us is learning lessons," of course that should be different, but it's actually sort of cooler that way. "If none of us is learning lessons," because it sort of implies us individually and collectively at the same time. So like using is instead of are is sort of cool. "We can't evolve and mature with our lessons, then what kind of people are we?" Right, because the fake left and the fake right are part of the conspiracy, and the point of those two conspiracies, the red conspiracy and the blue conspiracy, the boys versus the girls, is to make sure that you stay in your fucking trance. Ugh, shit. So, glad I got those quotes out to you. All right, Sunshine, tell us something to get excited about. So, North Georgia is like, sort of ground zero for the Confederacy, right? For the Bible Belt. And we all know that Atlanta is a wonderful, very wealthy metropolis area. But as soon as you get outside of, I spent a lot of time in Milledgeville, Georgia, working with a guy on some crowdfunding. And I really like the state. I really like the vibe. Atlanta is just this monster city. Mercedes-Benz has their headquarters there. Their North American headquarters, I think, is in North Atlanta. But as soon as you get out of Atlanta, you're like in a very rural area, like where I live up here in the north. And you can see by the way she writes and the way she speaks that she's not even she doesn't even hide it, that she's from rural Bible Christian people who live in the hinterlands. And I've spent a lot of time on here saying we're going to wake up and we're all going to be in Gone with the Wind, and which we are. You're going to see more and more around the country. It's going to have a lot to do with data centers and the price of food and energy and housing and poisons and pollution and so forth. That more and more people are going to find that they live in the South at the end of the war. But I don't understand. What do you mean the South at the end of the war? Like the 60-70%, according to EIG, 90% of all the counties in the United States have not had job growth in 20 years. 90% of the counties, there's 3,100 counties, so that's about 3,000 counties, have had no job growth. In MTG land, there's no job growth. There's just opioids and video games, as Andreessen said. That's the plan for these people. According to Andreessen, the big head guy that took over TikTok with Larry Ellison, he said, thank God, this is total Daughters of Zion shit, that the people that run America openly talk about poisoning them. So we had some really, 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 really good political operations from Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. That was some badass shit when they put that thing through, that continuing resolution, and the Senate immediately passed. That's like a major historic legislative event in the United States right there. We may now be in a situation where Rome has fallen. Washington, D.C. has been taken by the enemy. Not a lot of people understand that. I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm trying to mansplain it to you. She's telling the story from a different angle, which is appropriate for a woman who's trying to protect other women and children. But the only way through this might have to be like some sort of reverse, inside out, upside down, neo-confederacy, which is a word I've used on here many, many times, where the states, and I think it'll have to do with energy, pollution, food, etc., that the states will become so burdened by this ridiculous build out of poisonous data centers sucking up all the natural gas and water, that the local and the states are going to have to take action. As Governor Shapiro already mentioned about Pennsylvania, he said Pennsylvania may have to cut itself off from the grid. Pennsylvania has a lot of energy here. We even have old oil wells, like little oil wells up in Warren, PA, that are like miniature. They're like this big, and they make like a can of oil a day, and they look like the big ones on Landman, but they're just miniature because the oil is just so minimal up there. And we have coal, and we have the Marcellus gas, and really what we are now dealing with is, and this is why we're in Venezuela, obviously, there's not enough energy for this plan. There's not enough energy for this $22 trillion AI thing. There's not enough energy. And it's going to get so bad, like your Roman Empire, that the basic functioning of civilization, even the roads moan. What a great line! Who would come up with that? The roads are going to moan, people. There's not going to be enough tax revenue. There's people in West Virginia that have to literally drive up into the hills and get the water out of the springs because the water's polluted, right? Have you seen the videos on TikTok of the one outside of Memphis that's just, it looks like and sounds, and you can even sort of, you can't smell it clearly, but you can like see in the atmosphere like all the petroleum burning, like whenever a jet takes off, and you get that like massive heat wave of exhaust and so forth. It's unlike anything from a car because it's so massive. Well, this thing is just like running like that 24/7. It's like 10 jets taking off all the time, just sitting outside of Memphis. Yep. So that was my puzzle piece. That was 1 hour. So I think I'm pretty well. I want to emphasize this though. We may have to go into a constitutional convention. And the states, in a weird way, like the Confederacy is in Washington, D.C. See the difference? Like, it's like the Confederacy won. They're trying to turn America into a giant series of plantations. That's the new plan. And they're going to use this to enforce it. This is the new slave master. This is the new cracker. It's going to crack you. You step out of line, who knows, maybe your electricity goes out. Who knows, maybe your car runs off the road. Maybe we'll fill a drone with fentanyl and piss and spray it on your kids at the playground. That's the plan. They're open about it. Nobody even says anything. Yeah, I bought this hat just for you so I could put it on and you could stare at it and go like, what is it? MTG and Palantir and like a tie from like 1973? What the? We may need a constitutional convention to break apart from this thing. It's 50 states and Death Star. Go Steelers.
Virgos never see it because they can't see themselves. When a Virgo walks into a room, everybody goes like this. It is just ingrained in the system, right? It's like, best behavior, best behavior. It's a funny, once you see it, it's not even, it doesn't even matter who the Virgo is. It's just something you can't, it's Virgos can't help it. they're here, can't fool around, right? It's a lot like this is often Virgos have to heal from the fact that it always feels like Virgos feel like they walk in the room and everyone stops talking, because it's the power of presence that they accidentally carry with them every room they go into, right? Which is the feeling of everybody going like this when the Virgo comes in, and the Virgo being like, what's gotten into everybody, being like, you walked in. You walked in. It does create, but here's the thing about it, and that's why that's why I told you, that's why the guide is only smirking on one side of their face, because they're saying, how do you like your presence? Because the problem with presence is presence is the source of others' projection. Right? Like presence because like, yeah, it's a magnet, right? Like if you have presence and another person's feeling energetically insecure about the self, right? It's going to stir up feelings. And I feel like I keep on seeing like the past version of you that I see that you're healing from is like picked up, like I feel like it picked up on that. Right? Like I keep on hearing like early on. I keep hearing you came in here knowing that. You came in here knowing that. Which is why I keep on, like unconsciously, which is why I keep on seeing you kind of like working through and being like, you know, maybe if I stay as small as possible, right? I see you literally experiencing the first half being like, maybe if I stay as small as possible, energy won't project on me, right? Presence gets picked on. You got to write it down. I know it stinks. It stinks. But it's not something, I keep on hearing like the reason the guide's coming through. The reason the guide's coming through on it, saying that the more you recognize, I keep on hearing the more you recognize that, they keep on saying the more you recognize that, the better you will be, because you won't get bitter. They're saying the more you recognize that, the better that you'll be, because you won't get bitter. You'll just recognize that's just the quality, is what I keep on hearing. So, and I keep and I keep on seeing like, and the way you can tell, I keep on hearing, the way you can tell is if you're doing everything in your power to be energetically friendly. You know? The way you can tell is if you're doing everything in your power to be energetically friendly, right? It's and I think it's really, I think that it's not, so I want you like, I know like even like, and I think it's interesting too, because again, like I'm just reading into this, like it's interesting too, because I feel like this guide has not been with you. Like this guide feels like they're energetically new. Like this guide that I'm reading on feels like it's connected, they've connected to you specifically from the period that you kind of arrived into that experience. Because I keep on seeing that the observation, I keep on hearing like the reason that particular guide's coming towards you, it's the observation that we can't, I keep on hearing that we can't go back to past versions of ourselves, is what I keep on hearing, right? We can't, and I think that it's interesting, like, I don't know why, I don't know if you've been going through experiences by which another person tries to say, I miss the old you, is what I keep on hearing, right? Because often, right, and that's why I feel like, you know, and it's so funny too, because the guide's saying when they say I miss the old you, they arrive and say, how do you do, right? Because and that's what I meant in relationality to that guide, because they're saying that person does not exist anymore, is what I keep on hearing, right? Like I feel like there's something about that. Like I would not be surprised if that past version of self was often the energy by which I keep on hearing the difference between like, and this is what like this is what the like this is what like the and I know this sounds very hard line, but I'm just reading in terms of what the guide says, right? Because they're saying you got like what was preferable, energy taking advantage or energy projecting is what they say, right? Because they're saying like they're it's